May I tell you something? When I took my daughter, she was looking for colleges, and she made me wear a ball cap and glasses when she went for the weekend at Columbia. And it was, I remember walking on the campus, and I had the ball cap down, and I was looking down because she really didn't want anybody to know who I was. And so I'm looking down, and all I see are these people on the street, and their feet are, they've painted their shoes green, and they're wearing green, and then I see a little tip of orange right here, about this. And I said, where the hell am I? And she said, Dad, you are in the middle of a carrot farmer protest right now. And I said to her, I cannot spend my money here. But the guy giving the tour of the campus said to me, and you know, we want you to know that we have this is a very diverse campus. We have speakers from the entire spectrum. We had Ahmadinejad here, and Bill and Hillary Clinton. I think there's more of the spectrum over here. But it's amazing how they just don't even see the
keynote speaker at NYU for this semester declared that Bill Clinton was one of the 2 most conservative presidents over the past 100 years. So that's the that was the statement, and that's what we're dealing with. And it's just incredible that they can perpetuate these things that are just historically inaccurate, if not downright stupid.
That's why, I tell you what, I think the professor I told you about earlier, I gained his respect when he told me not to read a book. I questioned him on something, and I said, well, what do you think about this theory? And he said, who are you reading? And I told him, and he said, don't read him. Read this guy. That guy he's wrong. Read this guy. And so I wrote it down. The next week I came to class, and I raised my hand, and I said, well, let me ask you this. And he said, Mr. Beck, didn't I tell you last week to stop reading that guy? And I said, yes, you told me to read the other guy, which I did. But let me get back to him. And he looked at me and he said, excuse me? And I said, I don't care that you disagree with him. I want to know why you disagree with him. Why is he wrong? And that was the beginning of a relationship. I mean, you know, it's not like we were hanging out and having beers together. But I think that was a point where he looked at me and he said, oh, this guy wants to actually learn. And there are professors that I think that's what they're paid for. You know, I don't know what they think they're being paid for, but challenge them, push them up against the wall, question them with boldness, make them defend it. Because that's what you're trying. You are the person that is buying his service. Make him do his job. Make her earn her money. It's the last, and maybe the last chance you'll ever have of anybody having to earn their money in this society ever again. We'll be right back in just a second. Welcome back to our special, our series, Time to Be Heard. It's time for young conservatives to be heard. This is a chalkboard that I did on Tuesday's show. And it's a story, really, of Barack Obama. Everybody in his life, I mean, these are the highlights so we could squeeze into an hour. The communists and the Marxists in his life, mom and dad, Marxist, communist, Marxist, I think a Marxist, communist, anti-capitalist at best, workers of the world unite, Marxist. I asked this question because when I finished the show, I walked off and I said, I don't think I know one Marxist. I don't know one Marxist. Is there anybody here that knows this many Marxists? And you're on a college campus and you don't know that many Marxists. Here's the problem. Do you recognize the difference between people who openly, at least said at one time, I'm a communist. I'm a communist revolutionary. But now he says, in his own words, I'm going to drop the radical pose for the radical ends. Who's being taught social justice in school? Katie? You being taught social justice?
I mean, I was taught social. I went to the College of the Holy Cross in Massachusetts. I graduated, but I mean, I have to say that my political science department at school was very fair and balanced, and I actually had I would say an excellent education there.
Now,
but
hang on, social justice as Marxism, as liberation theology, or
social justice as I think you see in a lot of, the Jesuit institutions. It's very and sort of the whole Catholic left.
But what do they mean?
I think
take it or give it?
Take it and then give it.
Okay. Well, that's Marxist social justice, yeah. And Leah, we were talking, you had two
teachers in the last 3 weeks who used the analogy of it's easier for a camel to enter the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. We have...
How did you debate that? What did you say?
I was too stunned to say anything, and I'm like, is it really worth it to argue about this?
Yes, it is.
And of course it is.
Yes, it is.
But the real problem here is that when you're using analogies like that, not only are they pushing an agenda, but they're purposely perversing a religion for politics, and that truly
that's the secret here, and that's when we've been doing this year faith, hope, and charity, and one of the reasons why I'm on faith is because it's being perverted from the inside. It's being used, and that's where liberation theology came from. It came from South America. They knew they couldn't control the people unless they could break the back of religion. Catholicism was so strong, so they weaseled their way in there and distorted things. Kevin, you were having a conversation about it
was the sort of the perversion of charity.
Yeah.
As we were talking about a time we were debating against the College Democrats. We were talking about sort of different alternatives to tax regime, and this individual had offered the idea that, well, no one would give to charity if we didn't have an income tax, so there'd be the tax deduction. But our response was, we don't give to charity because of a tax deduction. We give to charity out of compassion and wanting to help others.
What is the problem with that? What's the problem with that theory? If you say, well, nobody will do it because there isn't a tax deduction, so we're going to take it from people because it needs to be done. Kristen, what's the problem with that?
To me, it makes people sound like they're greedy and they're only doing it because, oh, well, it's a tax deduction. I get more money on my tax paycheck. And it's not fair because some of us do donate money out of the goodness of our hearts or towards charities in memories of lost one, and it makes people out to be evil.
Okay, Jason.
Well, Americans have been proven to be the most charitable people on earth, even with the amount of usurping taxes that we've been given, especially across the Northeast in different states.
But you guys are missing the point. What does that collapse? What does that hurt by taking it, by doing it this way? Go ahead.
What I was going to say is the incremental impact of that is that if they can take this much money that they think should be given to charity, how much more will they take, and what's it justified towards?
Michael, what were you just saying?
Who do I trust more, the federal government or the charity I want to give the money to do the right thing?
I think you guys are all, they're all good answers, but I think you're missing the main point. What is the point, if we're going to go back to the eye of the needle, what was the point of that?
The point of that was that, you can't enter heaven by doing stuff. It's about having it come from your heart. It's not, you're building resentment.
So what happens
when people are giving that way through the government as opposed to giving freely? Conservatism is compassionate. Liberalism is forcing people to regulate morality, and you cannot do that.
If a system takes it from it, first of all, if that's the definition of charity, I'm one of the most charitable men on the planet every April 15th. That's not the definition of charity. And what it does is it corrupts us as individuals. Because, the difference between any small town that I've ever lived in and New York City, and I find myself doing this, I walk by things and problems in New York City and I think, why hasn't the city fixed this? Because they're taxing me through the nose. Why haven't they fixed this? Instead of saying, why don't I pick this up? Why can't I do this? I've got to fix this. There's a problem here. You walk by homeless and homeless and homeless and you think, how much am I paying? How many beds are there? Why isn't this fixed yet? Instead of saying, brother, are you okay? It stops us and gives our responsibility to somebody else. That's not the way to build a better man or a better human. We'll be back in just a second.